weight shift. It's a real thing. It really is. Uneducated professionals have their players work on it, and then the player ends up laterally sliding too much and excessively using their hands. Nope. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to My Golf DNA. We are inside the lab today because we're going to be doing some analysis on a really good golf swing. In fact, up on the screen behind me, we have Max Homa, who's got one of the best actions in the business. His golf swing is incredibly good from beginning to end. His golf swing is built around simplicity. His golf swing has a good, solid balance of the forces that you need to have in your golf swing in order to be able to generate real club head speed. But on top of that, he moves his legs and his lower body in a way of perfection where he doesn't have to worry about sitting on the sidelines because he's going to put his body in harm's way. This is a golf swing that we can learn a lot from, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. And this video comes fresh off the heels of the last video that we just released where we talked about getting weight shift and sequence working for you just by feeling the pressure through your feet. And what we're going to do later on this week is we're going to start picking up the pace here, and we're going to start making it a whole lot more advanced and a whole lot more dynamic. And I'm going to teach you a power move into the lead side and a power move from your transition into post-up that's going to allow you to feel what the best players in the world feel when it comes down to showtime. So hopefully you guys are excited to take this ride today. We're going to step inside the lab, we're going to do some analysis, and then at the end of the week, we're going to go ahead and step back out on the range and show you a good, simple little drill that all of you can start to try out. And then next week, we're going to start bringing it all together with a slot impact release drill that you're going to love. So if you are brand new to the channel and you have not yet subscribed, or if you are a subscriber to the channel and you don't have your bell notifications turned on, please go turn those on so you get notified when we do put out these new videos. And on top of that, if you like today's video, then do me a big favor, hit the like button. It's good for my psyche. Makes me feel good. Like we all like to feel good about ourselves, right? And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post those up below, and I'll help you out as best as I possibly can. Now, let's go watch lower body stability and lower body power at its finest. All right, folks, so here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna be focusing in on the entire body movement, but we're gonna watch the legs and the hips very closely. Max does some absolutely fantastic things with his hands and his arms. His golf swing is very buttoned up for sure, but our focus is gonna be on the legs and the hips here today. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to show you the horizontal movement that good swingers of the golf club have in their swing shape. But it doesn't look like a slide or a sway to all of you at home because the equation is very well balanced. The lateral movement that he uses in his golf swing is offset by the rotational movement that he uses in his hips and his torso. So if you look at this from a face-on perspective, we're going to mark the lead thigh, and I'll draw a line straight down off of the lead side of the head. And I want you to look at the movement off of the golf ball very early on. Okay, so as we start to load into the trail side, you can see the head has moved about an inch, maybe an inch and a half or so. Now the camera does shift just a minor amount here, but you can clearly see with the person that's in the background that he is moving off the ball into the trail side. Now this is not a result of the club having momentum and inertia in it and the body turning, pulling the weight into that trail side. And the same thing applies to the lead side. This is an active movement that's taking place in the swing shape, and this is an active movement that was probably developed very early on in his golfing career. And the reason why he probably won't talk about it or feel it is because when you get movement patterns ingrained, you want them to be checked off the list to where you're not having to spend time thinking about these things. I can confidently tell you that I don't feel the large amounts of horizontal movement in my swing shape. I can tell you that I don't feel my glutes contract on my trail side, even though that we know that they do contract based off of the way that I use my trail leg. So my point of what I'm trying to tell you is that when you look at his top of his backswing, okay, before the transition starts to happen, if we were to have a force plate underneath his feet, I think it's probably pretty safe to say, just looking at this position as a whole, that he's got somewhere between 80 to 85% of his weight parked underneath his trail ankle. How did he get here? He got here by weight shift and body turn. Now, to stabilize the pelvis and to create an environment for the hips to be able to rotate without over-rotating, a good way for us to be able to do that is to try to maintain flex in the trail leg as we shift and turn our body into that side. And Max does that beautifully when you look at it from a down the line perspective. If you watch this trail leg, you can see that he maintains a fair amount of flex all the way to the top of the swing. Okay, it's not the same amount of flexion that he had addressed. He lost a little bit. Again, you will lose a little bit as the hips rotate. But what he's doing here is he's stabilizing his pelvis. Would he talk about this? Absolutely not. This, again, is something that he probably developed early on in his golf swing career. And you can tell that the hips have rotated somewhere between 30 and 40 degrees. So 80 to 85% of the weight underneath the right ankle and 30 to 40 degrees of hip rotation. This is what we just worked on in the previous video. Now, one of the best moves that he makes in his golf swing is his transition. This move right here onto the lead side where the hips come back to a square position and the lead arm is parallel to the ground. That's what we're going to be working on later on in the week. We're going to be working on how to get to this position very powerfully, and we're going to be working on moving through this position and stabilizing the pelvis as you begin to release the club. When you look at this from a face-on perspective, I want you to look at the head movement in transition. Okay, you can see that the head moves laterally and drops down. That right there is exactly what we're going to be working towards in the next video. Is we're going to be working on getting our weight shifted but doing it very dynamically and adding in a way for us to be able to start using vertical force. Now, this horizontal movement, there's an abundance of it in transition. Our weight is now moved underneath this lead foot. I think it's probably pretty safe to say if we had that same force plate underneath him that we would have somewhere between 70 and 80% of the weight now moved underneath the lead ankle. So what got us over there though was some help from the trail side and the hips being willing to work in a very dynamic fashion. The hips shifting and unwinding. That unwinding is balancing out the horizontal movement in the swing shape so that the hips don't continue to slide out past neutral. Now, another great way to be able to balance out the hip rotation and the hip slide is to add in some vertical movement. And that's exactly what he does. Is he's going to start to begin his post-up move where he's driving down into that left ankle. The left hip is moving back up and away. The lead leg now moves to this sort of passively straight position. And now he's really letting things go from the hands and the arms. But a really good view for you to be able to see what his legs and his hips do would be from a down the line perspective. What you're going to notice here is that in transition, he's going to use some right side to help get the weight moving onto the lead side. Lead hip is starting to work back out of the way. Right side continuing to help clear the hips. Now watch what the right leg and the right hip do as the hands and arms are releasing out in front of his body. Notice how the hip rotation comes to a very quick stall out. So as the club starts releasing past the body, the hips stall in rotation. And you can see that this right leg now is almost becoming a braking mechanism for his body rotation. This right here is another movement that I'm going to teach you later on in the week. I'm going to teach you a simple little trick that you can do with your glutes that's going to help you stabilize the pelvis and keep it from wanting to continue to rotate. The lead leg goes more to a straighter position at this point, right? So you can see that at the point of contact, it's got that sort of little bit of flex in it, so it's passively straight. And then it goes into this sort of ramrod straight position as the hands and arms get into like the 3 o'clock position on the lead side of the body. How we get here is a good blend of horizontal and rotational force. What you're going to do to help stabilize the pelvis in the post-up move is you're going to make sure that you've got a good blend of vertical and rotational force that's taking place, and you're going to make sure that you do that with a very strong move from what your right leg, your right hip, and your right glute do, and I'm going to teach you that this week. So hopefully you guys are excited to take this on because, like I said, the video that we put out last week was a good baseline movement for a lot of you to start feeling what it's like to be able to create some weight shift and not have your upper body getting locked in place. Feeling the pressure change through your feet, allowing your hips to rotate. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start picking up the pace and we're going to start creating some stability. We're going to start creating some power and we're going to start moving very dynamically so that you can start using your legs and hips just like you would see of Max Homa here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave us a like. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post that up below and be on the lookout. The next video is going to be a good one. Make it a great day.